Athlete DNA contracts. Imagine a contract that operates in the shadows, a document not defined by dollars or years, but by something infinitely more personal. It's a whisper in the locker room, a phantom clause buried in a 100-page document, and it's called the 0-second contract. This isn't about how much playing time you get. It's about a team getting access to the very code that makes you who you are. We're diving deep into a chilling hypothetical, a forbidden legal loophole that could grant sports franchises unprecedented, almost absolute power: the ownership of an athlete's genetic data. Forget signing bonuses. This is about signing away your biology. Think about the modern athlete. They are a marvel of human potential, but they are also a multi-million-dollar asset. And in the world of high-stakes sports, managing assets is everything. Teams spend fortunes on training facilities, nutritionists, and sports psychologists, all to gain a fractional edge. But what if the ultimate edge wasn't in the gym or on the practice field, but hidden within the intricate strands of DNA? This is the central premise of the 0-second contract. It's a mechanism, perhaps signed by a hopeful rookie desperate for a shot, or a veteran clinging to their career, that hands over the keys to their genetic kingdom. Under the guise of advanced medical screening or personalized performance planning, a team could sequence an athlete's entire genome. Suddenly, they don't just know your 40-yard dash time. They know your predisposition for an ACL tear. They don't just see your work ethic. They see your genetic markers for endurance, muscle fiber type, and even your potential for recovery from a concussion. The implications are staggering, and they begin with injury prediction. This is the holy grail for any general manager. An injury to a star player can derail a season and cost a franchise hundreds of millions of dollars. With full genetic data, a team's analytics department could build a predictive model of terrifying accuracy. They could flag a player with a genetic variant linked to weaker collagen, making them a high risk for ligament injuries. They could see another player has a genetic profile that suggests slower recovery from soft tissue damage. This information would fundamentally change everything. Career decisions would no longer be based solely on performance, but on probability. A player could be traded, benched, or have their contract offer lowered, not because they played poorly, but because a computer model flagged their DNA as a future liability. The athlete themselves might never even know the real reason. They're just told it's a business decision. But it goes far beyond simply predicting risk. It's about total optimization. Imagine a training regimen so personalized it feels like science fiction. The team sports scientists, armed with your genetic blueprint, could dictate your entire life. They'd know the precise ratio of carbohydrates to protein your body needs for peak metabolic function. They'd know your genetically determined sleep chronotype, dictating exactly when you should sleep and wake for maximum recovery. They could identify if you're a fast metabolizer of caffeine, fine-tuning your pregame ritual down to the milligram. On the surface, this sounds revolutionary, like the ultimate competitive advantage. But peel back that layer and you find a profound erosion of personal freedom. The athlete is no longer a person. They are a system to be optimized, a biological machine to be tweaked and tuned for maximum output. Every meal, every nap, every workout becomes a data point in the team's grand experiment. This level of control creates a terrifying power imbalance. The very concept of privacy becomes obsolete. A team would hold the most sensitive information imaginable, secrets that go beyond health and fitness. Genetic data can reveal predispositions for conditions like heart disease, neurological disorders, or even mental health challenges. What happens to that information? In a ruthless, results-driven industry, it's naive to think it would remain locked away and used only for good. It could become leverage in contract negotiations. We know you have a 40% genetic risk for early onset arthritis, so we're only offering you a 2-year deal. It could be used to justify cutting a player, creating a plausible, performance-based excuse while the real reason lies in their DNA. The athlete is trapped. Their own biology is being used against them, and they have no recourse because they signed the contract. They ticked the box. They entered the 0-second agreement, a moment of vulnerability that led to a lifetime of being an open book, read and analyzed by the very people who control their fate. This isn't just about the future of sports. It's a direct assault on what it means to have autonomy over your own body and your own life. The game on the field is one thing, but the game being played with their DNA is one they can never, ever win. Legal ethics future. So, a team has the data. They have the blueprint. The 0-second contract has been signed, and an athlete's genetic code is now stored on a secure server ready to be mined for competitive advantage. The immediate question that screams for an answer is, how could this possibly be legal? The truth is, it exists in a terrifying legal and ethical gray zone, a chasm between current laws and the relentless march of technology. Our legal frameworks were built for a world of paper records and observable injuries, not for the invisible, predictive power of the human genome. This is where the forbidden loophole truly reveals its insidious genius. In most developed nations, laws exist to protect sensitive health information. In the United States, you have HIPAA, the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. In Europe, there's the GDPR, or General Data Protection Regulation. These are powerful pieces of legislation designed to give individuals control over their own medical data. But a 0-second contract would be a masterclass in circumvention. Its lawyers would argue that it isn't a violation of privacy, but a dread of it. The contract would reclassify an athlete's genetic code, transforming it from protected personal information into a voluntarily disclosed, team-owned asset, just like a player's image rights. By signing, the athlete is giving explicit consent, the magic words that can neutralize many privacy protections. The argument would be that in the high-stakes world of professional sports, this level of biological insight is a necessary part of the job, a condition of employment. And in the face of a 9-figure contract, how many athletes would have the foresight or the legal power to say no? This leads us to a much deeper, more philosophical question. Can you, or should you, be able to own another person's DNA? Is your genetic makeup a piece of property that can be bought, sold, and traded like a stock? Or is it an inalienable, fundamental part of your identity, something that cannot be legally separated from you? Current law is dangerously ambiguous on this point. We've seen legal battles over the patenting of specific genes for research, but the concept of wholesale ownership of an individual's entire genome as a condition of employment is uncharted, treacherous territory. Allowing this would set a catastrophic precedent, not just for sports, but for society. If an athlete can sign away their DNA, what's to stop a tech company from requiring it from its coders, or a high-powered law firm from its associates? It opens the door to a world of genetic discrimination, a biological caste system where opportunities are granted or denied based on the secrets hidden in ourselves. This is the slippery slope that descends into a full-blown ethical nightmare. The first step is reading the code. The next logical, terrifying step is trying to rewrite it. If a team can identify a defective gene that predisposes a player to injury, the temptation to fix it would be immense. We're talking about bioengineering, about gene editing technologies like CRISPR being used not to cure the disease, but to create the perfect athlete. Want faster muscle recovery? There's a gene for that. Want higher oxygen carrying capacity in your blood? We can tweak that. This is the path to a dystopian-esque future where sports are no longer a showcase of human talent, dedication, and spirit. Instead, they become a sterile competition between genetically engineered specimens, a battle of laboratories rather than of hearts and minds. The humanity of sport, the underdog story, the comeback from injury, a triumph of will over physical limitation would be rendered obsolete. It would be a spectacle, but a hollow one. To prevent this dystopian future, the fight back must be swift and decisive. Players' associations and unions would need to become the front-line defenders of genetic liberty. They must negotiate ironclad clauses into collective bargaining agreements that explicitly forbid the mandatory collection and ownership of genetic data, defining clear ethical lines for how and when technology can be used. But this can't just be an internal sports issue. We need robust, forward-thinking legislation that specifically addresses genetic privacy in the workplace, closing the loopholes before they can be exploited on a mass scale. The law must unequivocally state that a person's genome is not a corporate asset. It must protect every individual, from a star quarterback to a factory worker, from being forced to choose between their job and their biological privacy. The 0-second contract is a warning, a hypothetical scenario that serves as a flare in the dark. It shows us a future where the quest for an edge consumes the very essence of what makes us human. The battle for the future of sports isn't just being fought on the field or in the boardroom. It's being fought in the fine print of a contract for the ownership of our very code. The question is, are we listening?